Hi, I'm Marissa. I'm the buyer here at Weston Nurseries Hopkinton for both the retail and wholesale stores for all perennials. And I'm here to tell you today why I love Hellebores and why you should have Hellebores in your shade garden as well. Today is the first day of spring. You can't really tell because it's foggy and misty and cold, but it's exactly what the Hellebores love. So we're going to dive into 5 reasons why you should have them in your garden today. So, Hellebores. The Latin name is Helleborus, and luckily for us, most people just call it commonly Hellebore. Practically the same. You can also refer to it as Lenten Rose. Some people will refer to it that way because one of the species was blooming around Lent, so it became a common name for all the Hellebores. It has gained a lot of popularity in the last 10 years or so, and more hybrid cultivars are being developed because it is such an amazing plant. So let's get right into the first reason why you should have them in your garden, the blooms. That's what everybody loves, right? First and foremost, we notice blooms. It is super early blooming. It can bloom while there is still snow on the ground, which is a wonderful sight to see when you're tired of the winter. And going along with that, you can actually cut them and bring them inside. There is literally nothing, no flower to cut at the time of year that they bloom. They bloom so early, it's before crocuses, before all your daffodils, anything, any spring blooming bulb. This one is gonna be first. You can cut them and put them in a vase just like normal with a long stem, or you can even cut them really short and just float them in a bowl of water so they're kind of a potpourri of fresh flowers. The shape is nodding, it kind of hangs down a little bit. The hybrid cultivars now are starting to be a little bit more outward facing because people want to see the inside color. They're cup shaped and they can be single, like these are single petaled, but they can be double or even fuller than that. They come in a host of colors. They can be almost black. They can be any shade of pink. They can be kind of stripy like this one. This is the Lenten Roses Picotee, which is beautiful. Once the plant is mature, you can get anywhere from 20 to over 50 blooms on one plant. So it's not just that it's early and that it's pretty, kind of pretty, you're really gonna get a show. They can have speckles. They're just developing all kinds of different ones because they're getting so much more popular and everybody wants something showy. So stay tuned for a follow-up video on more varieties and the different kinds that we're gonna get in. Just hit subscribe and that'll get you the Hellebore news. Another benefit of having such early blooms is for the pollinators. There's very little nectar for them to have at this point, and it's great. It's great for them. It's like an early buffet for bees. Reason 2 is foliage. For anyone that is a perennial connoisseur or even someone who's just getting into perennials, you know that foliage is very important for the attractiveness of your garden because perennials don't bloom for that long. You get a burst of color at some point, but the rest of the time you're just looking at the leaves, so you want it to be appealing. So one of the reasons why the foliage is appealing on Hellebores is that it's evergreen. It's a true evergreen. You get a lot of plants that say that they're semi-evergreen, which that means it won't die back to the ground, so it won't be a bare spot in your garden, but it won't be attractive. It'll be kind of limp and gross and whatever. But these ones are true evergreens. They'll stay up. They're very rigid, so they will support themselves even when there's snow on top of them. The leaves are actually, besides being evergreen, they're actually quite showy. So you can see on this particular variety, this is the Lenten Roses Merlot. On the newer leaves, you actually get like a Merlot color on the underside of the leaves. So it's extremely attractive. Naturally, they have anywhere from this deep green to a really bright green. They're leathery, really stiff. They can get quite big once they're mature in your garden. And some of the new cultivars also have marbling or really obvious veins on the leaves. And again, we can show you some of those in future videos. So another appealing thing about how sturdy the foliage is that you can see This had a little bit of a hard time getting through some of the winter storms, but all you got to do is snip it off right at the base, and you can do that at any time, and it cleans it right up. You can see underneath the blooms, there's lots of new foliage, which is coming in, so you're safe. It's putting out growth. If it bothers you, you can cut it off as early as you want, but you can also keep them there to keep the blooms company if you prefer. The third reason to have a hellebore in your shade garden is that it really is a true blooming shade perennial. We struggle sometimes to find really good blooming perennials for shade. You'll have either just a little bit of bloom, or it really wants more sun, but you're kind of getting it into the shade because that's what you have. But this is a true blooming perennial for shade. Its ultimate light situation is getting dappled light from being maybe under a tree, or just a partial shade situation, so maybe like a few hours of light in the morning, and that'll give you the best blooms. But it also can take a little bit more sun if you make sure to keep it well watered, or it can even go in deep shade. It just won't bloom nearly as much as you'll get with the partial sun conditions. And the fourth reason is the soil conditions. So the ultimate soil condition is moist and fertile and well draining. But if you forget to water, or there's a little bit of a drought, or if it's under trees where it's competing for water and you just aren't giving it the special attention it needs, totally fine. I would say from personal experience, it's not just tolerant of those conditions, but it actually still thrives. I've seen them get incredibly big in a situation where they were under trees and being pretty much ignored. A very popular way to use hellebores is to put, a nice patch of them underneath deciduous trees. So you're going to see this flower show when there's no leaves or anything going on, and then as the trees fill in, the hellebores are done blooming and they can get nice cover from the hot summer sun. And the final reason you should have hellebores in your garden is critter resistance. We're all looking for really high critter resistance these days because deer and rabbits are just taking over the garden. So the thing about the hellebores is there's a couple things. The leaves, like we said, are very leathery and not nice for them to eat just based on that, but they're also very bitter tasting. So those two things in and of themselves are not appealing, but then also it is toxic. So you do have to consider if you have small children or pets, but it's very rare for anyone to get a severe reaction, even if they do take a bite, because it tastes so bad they never take another bite. So, just be cautious, but you're likely going to be fine. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned a little something about hellebores and decide to add them to your garden. Stay tuned for that follow-up video where we'll go over a lot more of the different varieties. And remember, if you can't get to a Weston Nurseries location, if you're outside of Massachusetts especially, you can go to our Farm to Door program. There's a link below. That's where we ship the plants directly to your door. Thanks for watching. I'm Marissa. Happy spring, and I hope to see you next time.